Now, I think it's fair to say that most of us know the useless Generation 1 glitches, the fact that you can fish inside of a statue, etc., etc. But when I saw this in my sub box, I thought to myself, well, actually, I don't really know that many Generation 3 glitches. In fact, for some reason, I don't know why I thought this. For the longest time, I just thought that Pokemon games generally nowadays were pretty solid and glitch-free, and then Scarlet and Violet came out, and obviously there's that game. But now that I'm thinking about it, Generation 3 glitches, that does interest me. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I want to see if I've maybe picked up on some of this over the years and I've forgotten it. But regardless, I think this will be very interesting. And Pikaspri does a ton of fantastic videos that you should watch. You can see that I've watched them. And it's the kind of channel that you can absolutely binge a whole day, maybe even a week. There's a lot of videos for you to watch. So I'd highly recommend you go over and check out some of their videos afterwards as well.
Hello, internet users, and welcome back to another video. Pokemon is a series that I've been playing for most of my life, so as you might expect, I've become aware of several glitches and mistakes across all of its different games and generations. If you're even a little bit familiar with this channel, then you know that I like to showcase how some of the—
Wait, what? Wait, what? Have you always been able to do that? You can just surf on the ground? I wonder why that is. See, I have a little bit of a programming brain in me. I did computer science university, and I dropped out of that, and then I did applied computing, so it's pretty much the same thing. So I want to see if I can use that part of my brain to maybe like figure out what's going on here, and then also at the same time make anyone that actually knows anything about coding and computing very, very mad as I say the wrong things. It'll be brilliant. So what happened here? I'm assuming that since the water is so close to the grass, there has maybe been a spot that has been coded to allow for surfing in it that wasn't initially supposed to do that, but I suppose you can also walk over it as well. I guess with maybe a different flag that you can set for an area that should be surfed on and an area that cannot be surfed on. And this little patch here has an area that can be surfed on, but also walked on at the same time, which is obviously very rare. It's not supposed to do that.
These oversights can cause some absolutely game—
Oh, never mind. It's just, wow, it's just the whole area is, whoa, what's going on here?
Situations. However, as much as I like talking about these, most of the time, I only get to focus on the larger, sometimes—
Oh, it's the whole area! I guess maybe there's just like a flag that— or not a flag necessarily, but something that allows you to start surfing in a certain area. And since he's not hitting a boundary of the grass, it's not making him get off the surf. It's allowing him to just surf through the area. And I suppose the boundaries are the only areas that really check for, are you surfing or are you not? Because why would the rest of the grass need to check for that, right?
More complicated glitches. Something that I really want the chance to discuss.
And there he's just walking on the water. Oh, so this is the Jesus glitch, is where you become Jesus.
More of is the long list of smaller and lesser known problems. These are the glitches that can hardly be used to benefit the player, and aren't capable of destroying the save file. These are all nothing but odd pieces of trivia that are often forgotten about, and hardly even noticed by the average player. I've previously made an entire video on this topic for Gen 1, but for today's video, I wanted to discuss another generation that also has several glitches all over the place.
See, I want to see a version of this video for every generation. Like, I'd love to see— I just wonder about Gen 5. I just keep thinking about Gen 5.
In no particular order, here's my list of broken things you can find in Pokemon Generation 3. Number 1, the Pokemon with the wrong name. To start off, let's talk about a mistake that perfectly summarizes the things that inspired me to make this video. In Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, if you go to Mossdeep City, there is a house located to the left of the Pokemon Center. Inside are a couple of NPCs and a Skitty. If you talk to the Skitty, the game incorrectly lists the Pokemon's name as Delcatty.
Maybe that's like a translation issue. I wonder what it says in Japanese.
Which is actually its evolved form.
Or has it always been like that?
This mistake is right out in the open, but you'd be forgiven for never noticing this.
Yeah, I mean, you'd assume that it's just— I guess it is just the wrong sprite. I suppose it's like a typo. Like when they were programming this, no one noticed because no one goes into those houses and just talks to random Pokemon because you already know what's going to happen. It's just going to say it's Cry, and there's nothing really interesting about that. I suppose they didn't really test it all that much.
City is one of the last few towns you'll get to visit in the game. And by this point, most players would have realized that none of the overworld Pokemon really do anything when you interact with them.
Yeah, they have nothing of value.
You probably never even bothered to talk to this cat in the first place.
Unless you really like little pink cats, and there's a lot of people out there that really like little pink cats.
There is one thing that's pretty interesting about this, though. Apparently, this mistake is present in the original Japanese release.
I was asking about the Japanese version as well. Okay, so I was wondering if it was a translation error. So it's not a translation error. It's just something that has, I guess, yeah, it's whoever made it just was not paying very close attention to what they were looking at. Oh, it says Mian. That's cute.
The Skitty displaying Delcatty's Japanese name. So when the game was being translated to English,
And
they
the
actually
Kororo.
got the correct name, but also didn't realize the overworld sprite didn't match the Pokemon.
I don't know. I guess maybe they were just supposed to keep it as exactly as it is. It's just like straight translation, don't change anything,
It
maybe?
wasn't until the later release of Pokemon Emerald that this issue was finally noticed, and the Skitty's text was corrected for both the English and Japanese releases. However, in the case of other translations, I'm not sure how many of them made the same mistake. So if you're watching this video and happen to own a copy of Ruby or Sapphire in other languages, feel free to tell us down in the comments what the Skitty's text says.
That would be interesting. I would imagine it would be something that was across the board the same issue because they would give the same notes for translation for all the different versions of the game. That's what I just imagine. Like you'd have like a blanket set list of things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do. Maybe you shouldn't change a name because they don't want you to change anything. Just straight up, just put it in your language and don't mess with anything.
Number 2, the extra statues in Dewford Gym. Moving along, we have another mistake that can only be found in Ruby and Sapphire. If the player enters the Dewford City gym, they can find these statues at the entrance. Like every other gym in the game, these will display the gym's name and the player's name if they've defeated the gym leader here. What's unique about Dewford, though, is that if you go a little bit up and to the right, you can find that there are 2 specific wall tiles you can interact with. When doing so, the game will display the gym statue text, also including the details of your victory if you have the badge.
Okay, that's so weird. The only reason I can assume that this would happen was that when they were making the gym, they had one set layout that they wanted to use and they put everything there. They started coding like the statues and all that. And then they were like, ooh, actually, don't like that layout. No, we should definitely change that layout. So they moved it, but they forgot. Oh, that's not the scene that I meant to go on. They moved it, but they forgot to reset where the gym statues would have been. I just imagine it's someone just completely forgetting to change that after they changed the layout of the gym.
Incredibly random. I think there's a pretty reasonable explanation for how this happened.
Wait, okay, if it's the same explanation, I'll be really happy.
Notice that the 2 interactable wall tiles are spaced apart, by the same distance as the real statues. I personally think it's likely that at one point during development, these 2 spots were the original locations of the statues. Then for whatever reason, the devs decided to change the layout of the building. In this new version of the map, they could have just simply forgotten to remove the old event tiles that prompt the text.
I'm actually so happy we had the same conclusion there.
Barely accessible at the edges of these walls. In Pokemon Emerald,
I mean, I know it's not necessarily like the biggest brain thing to come to the conclusion of. It's a pretty straightforward thing. Like, oh yes, of course, that's probably where it used to be. But still, I'm just happy that, I don't know, it just makes me happy.
Version, this glitch was fixed since the layout of the gym was changed to something entirely different. None of the walls here can be interacted with anymore.
Oh my god, I just realized that Ruby and Sapphire's Dewford Gym is different to Emerald's Dewford Gym. Also, Emerald has way more trainers for some reason. That's insane.
Number 3.
Okay, well, no, I exaggerated there. I'm sorry, I'm a YouTuber. That's not insane. It's not insane that they have more trainers. It's not ridiculous that they have more trainers, is it? It's normal. It's just a normal thing. It's interesting. I'd say it's mildly interesting.
The broken tiles in Sootopolis City. In Ruby and Sapphire, there is a very simple glitch that can be found in the upper right part of the map. To the left of this staircase, there is a single wall tile that isn't solid and can be walked into. There isn't much else to really say about this. It's very obvious that this isn't supposed to be able to happen.
Yeah, I would imagine that's just someone making the city. There's obviously a lot of areas that you're not supposed to walk into, so they're putting down a lot of indicators that say, don't walk here, don't walk here, don't walk here. They've obviously just missed that one.
You can also easily walk in and out of it, so you can't get stuck here either. By now, it also shouldn't surprise you to find out that Emerald version fixed the issue and made the wall behave like normal.
I'm honestly surprised they even noticed that to fix it,
However,
to be fair.
something you might not know is that Emerald managed to break a completely different wall tile in this city. Inside of Sootopolis Gym, when you use the ladder to go into the basement, it's actually possible to move 1 tile north of the ladder and step into the wall. This glitch spot is a bit more difficult to find by accident, since you can only move onto it when coming from upstairs.
Yeah, it would imply that you have to, for some reason, voluntarily go back down the ladder, even though there is absolutely no reason to ever do that.
Apparently, the gym's puzzle makes it so that you'd only use this ladder to climb back up after falling through the holes. Because of the one-way ice slides here, there's no real reason to ever use the ladder to come down.
Oh, see, I wonder how people even find this. Genuinely, did people just run around and walk into every single wall in every video game?
But just like the tile in Ruby and Sapphire, you can't get stuck here.
Are there professional wall walkers out there?
You can easily just walk back into the ladder to escape.
Let me know in the comments, are you a professional wall walker inner? You're like, oh, a new game just dropped? Can't wait to hit those walls, baby, let's go!
You might be wondering why this specific wall is only messed up in Emerald, and there's actually a funny possible reason for this. As you can see, the sprite for the ladder only occupies a single tile, but in Ruby and Sapphire, they used a different sprite for the bottom floor. This ladder is 2 tiles tall, and only the bottom half can be walked into. If you attempt to walk up from this spot, you'll hit the wall as expected. It would seem that when they changed the ladder in Emerald, removing the top half of the old ladder sprite made this spot unintentionally passable. I obviously can't say for certain, but it seems overwhelmingly likely to me that the change to the ladders had something to do with this. Number 4, Chansey's overlooked text. Once again, in Ruby and Sapphire...
What did Chansey say? Chansey? What did you say? We had that conversation. You're not supposed to say. Okay.
Only
Let's just
we
find
have
out.
a very tiny mistake
that
involves some of the game's text. As many of us know, the Pokemon Chansey has a unique signature move called Soft Boiled.
I always thought it was kind of silly that you have to reduce your own health in order to increase another Pokemon's health rather than just using the power points of the move to heal someone else. I feel like that would make more sense, wouldn't it? Use the power points?
If you use this move from the party menu, it allows Chansey to share its HP to heal your other Pokemon. However, in the initial English...
It is a cool overworld field effect, though. I appreciate when moves have interesting overworld effects that you wouldn't usually use, but when it comes up, it's like, oh, that's quite helpful if you're in a situation that really requires
release
it.
Of Ruby and Sapphire, if you attempted to use Soft Boiled on a Pokemon that was fainted or already had full health, the game would display text that says, "This item can't be used on this Pokemon." Clearly, the player is not trying to use an item here, so this text is incorrect.
It's just such a niche occurrence where you're using soft-boiled specifically from a Chansey, which is very, very hard to find. And it has one move that allows it to do a very specific feature that you probably wouldn't use because there's so many potions and money available in the game, and Pokemon centers are just absolutely everywhere as well. So this very niche occurrence in which you already trying to heal a fully healed Pokemon, but it probably didn't come up in testing. I would imagine people aren't really doing this. Obviously, when you test in a game, you have to try everything, but it's not like these games have an infinite development cycle. They have like, what, a year, maybe a year and a half or something to make these games? Actually, to be fair, Ruby and Sapphire had a longer time to make it, but a very small team, or a much smaller team than they had previously, so
what's
I'm not
interesting
sure.
About this
in previous games
issue,
recently,
though, is that they actually managed to fix it before the release of Emerald. In the 1.1 release of Ruby and Sapphire's cartridges, there were a few tiny changes to some of the in-game text. One of these changes is specifically for Chansey's soft-boiled message.
Oh my god, I cannot believe that they used to do 1.1 releases of cartridges. I mean, it makes sense. Like, if you release a game and you know that it's bugged, you can fix the game, and then all games that are printed going forward won't have that issue. So you can update things that way, but god, going back to a time before just the availability of internet updates sounds like a nightmare.
As you can see, the text is almost the same, except they just took out the word item, which...
I guess you could argue that it is better to have that pressure on developers like, hey, don't release a completely broken game because you can't fix it easily afterwards. You have to at least wait until it's mostly done. Ubisoft and EA.
Made it make a little more sense. Chansey is a Pokemon that literally cannot even be captured in Ruby and Sapphire. The player cannot own one in this game unless they trade it from Fire Red and Leaf Green, which are games that released over a year later. Unless you were using cheats, this mistake was not even viewable in casual play when Gen 3 first released. Number 5, Mawhile's wrong Pokedex entry.
Oh, it's also spelled wrong.
While we're on the subject of text mistakes, there is a very infamous one in...
I wonder if that's like an inside joke. Like, we're on the subject of text mistakes, and he puts a text mistake in the actual video itself. That's kind of like a meta joke.
Gen 3 involving Mawhile. In the 1.0 release of Pokemon Ruby, you can see that Mawhile's name is spelled incorrectly here.
Oh, it's literally because the text says it in the game. That's why they put... Okay,
with an
that makes
H
sense.
in the middle. Just like the Chansey text, this issue was corrected in the 1.1 revision. If you're wondering, Pokemon Sapphire uses a completely different entry for Mawhile, so that's why this typo can only exist in early copies of Ruby.
That's going to be a translation error, right? Like when they translated it, they were like, "Oh, Mawhile. It must have an H in it because while has a H in it. Must be a reference to waiting a while for Maws, which is something that we all do, obviously." I would imagine that typo isn't in the Japanese version.
Given how Mawhile's name is pronounced, you can see why someone could type it that way and other people would fail to spot the mistake. In fact, I wonder how many of you even noticed that I intentionally misspelled Mawhile this way when I showed the title card for the segment. Either way, this appears to have been the only instance in the entire generation where the Pokedex makes a mistake like this. Number 6, the Pokemart worker in Oldale. This next glitch is surprisingly the only one on this list that was never fixed in Pokemon Emerald. At the start of the game, the very second town that the player reaches is Oldale. Standing near its entrance is a lone Pokemart employee. If you talk to them, the worker will escort the player to the town shop and then provide you with a free potion. However, with this particular NPC, there is a funny little oversight.
Could you imagine having this kind of business or having this kind of a dedicated employee? I mean, this is the kind of thing that you might find in Japan, but no other country. No one's going to be going out of their way like, "Hello, I work for a massive corporation. Could you please come with me while I explain Massive Corporation? Here's Massive Corporation over here. We sell a variety of goods at Massive Corporation. Here's a promotional item from Massive Corporation. We hope to have your custom at Massive Corporation." I can't imagine that. The only thing I can imagine that being a case in is like a local business, like what do you call them, mom and pop shops and all those. I can imagine like, hey, someone standing outside like, "Hey, we just opened, we're a local family business. We got this. Would you like a promotional item? Maybe you'll come in." That's the kind of thing I would imagine. But Pokemon's are everywhere. They truly are massive corporation. They probably have a stock price through the roof right now.
If you were to ignore the employee at the beginning of the game and later return with a full inventory, then it becomes impossible for them to give you the free potion. When you speak to them again, they'll state their normal text as if they had given you the potion. However, the next time you reset the map, they will return to the southern part of town, ready to initiate the same cutscene. This will happen every time until the game knows you've actually received the item. However, after you're denied the item in front of the shop, there is technically a way to reset the map without also resetting the NPC's position. After being told your bag is full, move over to the town's northern exit and take a single step past the lighter grass. Doing this will update your location to Route 103. However, despite this, you've still not taken enough steps away from the Pokemart employee for the game to properly refresh their position. If you turn around and
Okay, wait, what's going to happen now? Are they going to walk through the Pokemon? Is it going to be a crazy glitch here? Are they just going to phase through like a ghost?
Try speaking to them again, they'll talk as if they're in their other position. This will cause the game to load the cutscene where they escort you to the mark. But as you can obviously see...
Oh, wait, that's so sick. That's such a funny glitch. I wonder why it resets like that in certain situations where you don't have the potion, because I would assume like once you go to the certain area, the conversation has been completed, unless the conversation isn't completed unless an item is handed over. That'd be an interesting way to do it, right?
By walking their path from a different starting spot, they'll instead lead the player into the trees behind the building. These tiles...
He's like, "Hey, can you come with me behind those trees over there?"
Tiles are normally impassable, but cutscenes like this temporarily give the player the ability to walk through walls.
Wait. Can you do this? Can you do it again? Can you go back, or does he just like stay in the trees forever?
Luckily though, this glitch only takes you one tile into the tree, so you're able to simply walk down and be free again.
Unlike him, who is currently stuck up there forever. We need Fireman Sam to get that boy down.
Further, and the player would have been completely stuck in the trees unless they had a Pokemon that knows fly or teleport. This glitch is completely harmless, and as you can see, the only thing it does is temporarily get the Pokemart NPC stuck somewhere they shouldn't be.
That's kind of funny. He does look like he's stuck up that tree. It's like, help me, please.
Which brings us to the next entry on this list. Number 7, trainers walking through walls. In Ruby and Sapphire...
Wait, can I guess? Is it that old man to the left? If you trigger him, can he walk like through that gate?
Fire only, there are 3 trainers in the game that are able to notice you in their line of sight when they really shouldn't be able to. Our first example...
Oh, is it down? Oh, it might be down. He might just walk through the fence downwards.
Is the gentleman on Route 121. If you pick up the item you see here and stand on the spot it occupied, you'll notice that the gentleman can still see you when he looks down. This will...
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's obviously like a very niche scenario because once you pick up the item, there's no reason to then stand in that spot, especially before fighting this guy in particular. I do like his sprite, though. It's very dapper.
Cause him to approach you, ignoring the fence tile between the both of you. He will battle you like normal and remain on this spot until you reset the map.
Just help, I'm stuck in a fence!
The same thing happens with the other trainers that are affected by this glitch. The next NPC that can do something similar is the Aroma Lady on Route 118. If you stand over here and let her look to the left, she'll be able to spot you and walk past the ledge tile.
Damn, she can levitate! I guess there's just some trainers that have longer sight lines than they're supposed to, but that also implies that every trainer has the ability to just phase through things as much as they want. They're not encumbered by petty things like a boundary, and the boundary merely applies to the player character. So if the sight lines and are long enough, you could just walk through anything.
Well, as if it weren't there. The last and most entertaining trainer that can
oh my god, is he gonna levitate over a hole?
do this is the tuber on board the abandoned ship. When entering the ship, you can stand along the left side.
No, does he phase through the wall?
Of this wall
this is gonna be brilliant.
On the other map, you can see the tuber running around. When he reaches
wait, that's actually something that's really easy to have happen as well.
At a certain point, he'll be able to technically see you and then walk into the black void that separates the two maps.
Just imagine a child with an inner tube just smashing through a wall like, hey, I have my inner tube. Do you want to battle? The player character's just like, what the fuck? See that child?
For whatever reason, all three of these trainers were given a longer line of sight, and it wasn't noticed that this causes them to essentially walk through walls if they spot you from certain positions.
I'd say the inner tube one's probably the easiest one to have happen, though the Aroma Lady is actually really easy too. This gentleman, you really don't have any reason to stand on that spot,
It
though.
also goes without saying by now, but Emerald completely fixed this issue, and the trainers can no longer do this in that game.
Yeah, that's a noticeable
8,
error there.
Steven's wrong dialogue. In Pokemon Emerald version only, after the player has entered the Hall of Fame, Steven can be found deep within Meteor Falls.
This is when he starts talking about Shungite rocks.
Waiting to be battled. When you speak to him, though, he will mention the time that the two of you battled together at the Mossdeep City Space Center. However, as you can obviously see here, he incorrectly calls it the Sootopolis Space Center.
See, I want to know now if in the original Japanese version, that is also an error there as well.
Whoever wrote the text here accidentally put the name of the wrong city, and it went completely unnoticed by the time the game released. There really isn't much else for me to say about this one. It's a very simple error that fits the theme of the video, so I wanted to include it. Something I should say, though, is that I'm not sure if this mistake exists in other language versions of the game. If you happen to be familiar with this, or have played any other translations for Emerald, feel free to tell us in the comments what Steven says here. Number 9.
Because if it makes sense if that error was in the original, but if it says Mossdeep in the Japanese version, yeah, I feel like it'd be really hard to make that kind of mistake, right?
Meeting Pokemon in Celadon City. To end this video, we're gonna finally turn our attention to the other main series Pokemon games of Gen 3, Fire Red and Leaf Green. While these two games have a few useless glitches and mistakes themselves, they don't have very many worth talking about compared to what I've shown for Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. However, one very strange thing that I need to bring up today is a very strange glitch that occurs in Celadon City. To really showcase it, let me demonstrate the simplest way to perform it as soon as you arrive in the city for the first time. For the first step, we need to obtain a Pokemon in Celadon. The quickest way to do this would be to go to the roof of the apartment building and obtain the free Eevee in this room here. Checking
God, it has slow text speed on.
the Eevee summary screen, take note of the text on the bottom that says, Met in Celadon City. Next, walk over
as it should
to the Celadon department store and enter the building. Once you're inside, check the Eevee summary once more. You'll notice that the text on the bottom has slightly changed. It now says that this Pokemon was first met at the department store. If you exit the building and check the summary again, the text will return to normal, properly saying it was met in the city.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense. This isn't a thing that should change. Once you have your met at, I mean, that's a static piece of data that shouldn't be modified. you shouldn't even be able to modify. Why would you be able to modify it, right? So it should be something that is just static. I mean, maybe if you trade it to like a different generation and it says like met in the Kanto region or something like that, but especially not if you enter the Celadon department store. I can't even imagine how this would even occur when they were making this game.
It's a very weird and temporary glitch that can only happen to a Pokemon that is first obtained in Celadon City. As far as I'm aware, there is no other Met location in the entire generation that does anything like this.
There's not even any Pokemon that you can get in Celadon department store. So met in Celadon department. I mean, I guess you could hatch like an egg there. That would make sense. That's really the only thing I could think that you could do there is you could hatch an egg. But there's no Pokemon that you can pick up there. So it's really weird.
I don't fully understand why this even happens either. It's also worth noting that this glitch can be done in the opposite way as well. If you were to take a Pokemon egg into the department store and then let it hatch inside, its hatch location will be displayed as here, but as soon as you step outside or even go into other areas outside of the city, the game will change the summary text saying that it was hatched in the city instead.
I don't know, it must be haunted. It's haunted, that's the only solution, it's haunted.
Overall, the glitch is pretty harmless. Odds are, most of you watching have probably activated this multiple times without even realizing it. With that said, we've reached the end of this little video. I hope you all enjoyed watching, and hopefully you learned something about these games.
I did. I learned a lot. That was absolutely fantastic. That was really, really fun. Like I said, please, PSP makes a lot of fantastic videos, and you should absolutely check them out. It's interesting to try and figure out in my own head, like, why these things were occurring, or why these glitches happened. But if you would like us to look at the Generation 1 version, please let me know in the comments. And please go and binge this entire channel. It's a wonderful channel. You should definitely watch it. Also, you should use code Patterrz at GamerSubs, baby. Why is it so zoomed in? Use code Patterrz at GamerSubs, baby. You should use code Patterrz at GamerSubs, so you do.